Welcome back, everyone. So we've been talking about compressed sensing and sparsity in general, and now I want to illustrate some of these concepts in code in Matlab. Okay, so in particular, we've been talking about solving underdetermined systems of equations of the form y equals theta times some sparse vector s. Okay, so s might be a vector of Fourier coefficients for an image or an audio signal. Y might be my limited measurements I take of that system. So oftentimes this will be some matrix C times some basis psi times S. So theta is kind of this measurement matrix that tells me how I'm sampling my high dimensional system. Okay, so remember X would be my original high dimensional image, maybe a megapixel image is X in pixel space. S would be the Fourier coefficients, so that's a sparse vector, same dimension as X, but in the Fourier transform domain. And C would probably be some random matrix or some sparse random matrix that would pull that would sample individual pixels of X for a much, much lower dimensional measurement Y. Okay, and the whole game of compressed sensing is out of all of these infinitely many possible solutions to S that could satisfy this underdetermined system of equations. And when I say underdetermined, I mean Y is relatively small and S is relatively large. So there are many, many more, and S is the unknown variable. So there are many more degrees of freedom in this unknown that I could kind of fiddle with these entries of S to get the output Y, this measurement Y, and there's lots and lots of different S vectors that would give me the exact same small output measurement. That's what I mean by an underdetermined system of equations. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to code this up in Matlab. In particular, we're going to say that our sparse vector has dimension 1000, and our output measurement y is going to have dimension 200. So this is going to be 1/5 of the full measurements in S. Theta is just going to be a Gaussian random matrix. So rand n means it's normally distributed random numbers in a matrix of size p by n. Okay, so I'm kind of abstracting away the C times psi, and I'm assuming theta is just a really nicely behaved random matrix. And then for y, I'm going to say that y is just some random vector. Okay, so I'm just creating theta to be a random matrix, y is a random vector, and we're going to see what happens when we try to solve for S using different norms in our regression. Okay, so the easiest thing to do would be least squares. Okay, so we could do least squares. And this would again be solved using the SVD, which is from chapter 1 of our book. And so in least squares, you would say S equals theta, we're going to call this theta dagger times Y, where theta dagger is the pseudo inverse. You would take the SVD of theta, and then you'd invert each matrix one by one. Those are unitary and diagonal matrices, so they're easy to invert, and this would give you the pseudo inverse. This is the least squares solution, or the solution S that has the minimum norm in an L2 sense. Okay, so this is a kind of minimum L2 norm. And the alternative, what we're going to talk about, so I'm going to show you this least square solution, and we expect that S is not going to be sparse at all. It's going to have a little bit of all of its entries filled in, and all of those entries are going to work together to simultaneously satisfy this equation and make sure that S has the minimum L2 norm possible. Okay, and so generally speaking, having a lot of little entries in S is better for the L2 norm than having a couple of really, really big entries in S. Okay, so that's what this does. The other one is the minimum L1 norm solution, which is essentially kind of min the one norm of S such that such that y equals theta S is true. Okay, and there's a lot of ways to write this. I'm picking one way. We'll see how I actually write it in the code. I think this is how I write it. Okay, good. So we've created the data y and theta. So those are known variables, and we're solving for S. And we're going to solve for S these two different ways. We're going to solve for S in the minimum L1 norm using, this is kind of the sparse solution. So this is really important because the minimum 1 norm is going to be a sparse solution, and we're also going to show what the minimum L2 norm, the pseudo-inverse solution, looks like for comparison. Okay? Okay, good. So to solve for the L1 minimum norm solution, and I'm just going to call this S underscore L1. We're going to use the CVX package, so you can go and download this for free. This basically is the convex optimization package. Really, really, really powerful. Makes optimization, kind of general optimization problems, really easy to code and solve in Matlab. So I highly encourage you to download this CVX package. And what we're going to do, there's this language kind of, we're going to have the CVX begin, CVX end. That means that we're going to run this CVX optimization. We're going to optimize over the variable S L1, and we have to tell it explicitly what the dimension of this is. So it's dimension n, where n was 1,000. And now we tell it that we're going to minimize the 1 norm of S. Okay, so norm S comma 1 means the 1 norm. So we're going to minimize the 1 norm of S subject to theta times S equals Y. Subject to Y equals theta times S. Okay, so it's actually exactly how I wrote it here, is what we're doing here. We're going to minimize over the variable S. We're going to minimize its 1 norm such that it exactly equals or satisfies this equation. Okay. Now, if I added noise to this, if this measurement Y was theta S plus some noise, so that this couldn't be exactly satisfied, I would say subject to norm. Maybe I'll write that out. I'd write subject to the norm of Y minus theta S comma 2, the 2 norm of Y minus theta S, less than maybe 0.001. I'd pick some threshold, and I would say that I want to minimize the 1 norm of S subject to the fit being within, 10 to the minus 3 of the data, okay? And this threshold here would depend on how large you think that noise is. But we're not going to actually worry about that right now. We're going to work in this perfect case where there is no noise, and this can be exactly satisfied by a vector S. Okay, good. So we've solved that. I'm actually going to start this running because this might take a little while. Okay, good. So I'm running my L1 norm. And then my L2 norm solution, my minimum L2 norm solution is easy. I just run the one-line Matlab P_inv of theta that computes the pseudo-inverse times Y, just how I showed you. Okay, good. So my CVX optimization is done. You can see that there's a bunch of outputs here telling you kind of how this is an iterative optimization to find the sparse L1 minimizing solution, and so this is going through the iterative optimization until some convergence criterion is satisfied. It tells you how many iterations and kind of all of this information that you can dig into if you really wanted to debug your optimization. But right now, I really just want to plot things for you and show you what it's doing. So here, I am going to basically plot everything all at once. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through it. So we have these 4 plots here. On the left panel in blue, we have the L1 solution. I'm going to tell you what these mean. And on the right, we have the L2 solution. Okay, and what you see here on this kind of top part of the plot, these the blue and the red top plots each have 1,000 elements. This is literally the vector S plotted value by value. Okay, so these are all of the values of the S vector in the L1 minimum norm solution and in the L2 minimum norm solution. And you can see that the L1 solution is pretty spiky. Okay, so there's actually, I don't know if you can see, but if you zoom in here, maybe I'll try to zoom in. You can actually see that if you zoom in, a lot of these values, most of these values actually are 0 or very, very small. And then there's occasional like large spiky values. So this is what we mean by our solution being sparse. Many, 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 many of the values are 0 and a lot of them are spiky. Okay, and you see that here, this is our histogram of how many of the values of S are 0 or 0.1 or 0.02 or 0.03, 04, 05, and negative and so on and so forth. Okay, so most of the values are 0. In fact, you can see almost about 800 of the values are 0, which makes sense because there were only 200 values in Y, and so I can satisfy this equation with only 200 non-zero entries in S. So about 800 of them are in fact 0, and then the remaining 200 non-zero coefficients are distributed out here. In contrast, the least squares solution, the L2 solution, these are almost all non-zero. All of the values are non-zero, and they're much smaller. Okay, so the L1 solutions, although most of them are zero, the magnitudes are much larger, whereas the L2 solution has almost all of them non-zero, but they're much smaller in magnitude. So in the sum squared norm, this would have a smaller L2 norm. This would have a smaller L1 norm. And again, if I look at the distribution, the histogram of these values, what you see now is that almost, very few of them are zero. This is not a sparse vector. Most of them are not zero. Most of them are kind of in this Gaussian distributed bulk of values here. Okay, so I think that's a really nice illustrative example of kind of what we mean by a sparse vector and what these two different norms do when you're solving a basic underdetermined system of equations. Okay, so this was an underdetermined system of equations. There were only 200 kind of measurements, but 1,000 unknowns. And when we solve for the L1 minimum solution for S, we find that we get a very, very sparse solution where 800 of the values are nearly zero, and only 200 of those values are non-zero required to satisfy this equation. When we solve the L2 least squares minimum solution, we find that this vector is not sparse at all. The solution vector has almost non-zero entries in all of its entries, but it does have a smaller L2 norm. Okay, so this just goes to show that it really matters what norm you pick in an underdetermined problem like this for solving for S. So if you want a sparse vector S, you really, really want to penalize the one norm of S, and you can do that. Okay, you can do that in Matlab using CVX. All right, thank you.